I'm going to start a recording on how to create a duplicate part off of a scan. This one is 2D. There are ways to do it 3D. We'll just get started. So I'll create a new project here, and I'm going to bring in the part from the canvas. So it'll be in Jira or someplace, but I have it right here on my desktop. So we're going to go ahead and select the face. I like to work off the top face. And how about in a natural orientation? I'm going to flip it for the fact that this would be left-handed. There we go. I scanned the back side of this so that the bevels won't show. Now let's take a look at our scale. So this is a decent quality scale, and I'm going to go ahead and average it across 2 inches. So we'll do that. You can't do that for here. I haven't figured out how. So what we do is we close this section, and you right-click here, and then you click Calibrate. And then I'll pick a spot on the inch, right in the center. We'll go over 2 inches, grab it in the center, and that is 2 inches. Now we've scaled this part. From here, we can start to trace and do the digitization. Depending on how critical the part is, will determine whether this is a parametric model or a freehand. If everything needs to be really well defined, or if we can get away with some other things that we wouldn't normally do in engineering. So it's about a balance of time and perfection. We can't be perfect. I'm going to often these dimensions are dead on a specific size, so it is here. Okay. So roughly right there. And then we can start working our way through the drawing. Maybe I'd create a mirror line and mirror these dimensions that look copied. I do try and avoid using splines. Not that we can't, but they can create difficult geometries later. So I'd much prefer arcs and straight line sections rather than using the spline tool. So we'd work our way through this document. There's another trick here that if you don't dimension everything off the origin, so we put the origin here, and maybe we would move, before we got here, let's just undo this and go back to the scaling of the sketch. Oh, it's not gonna let me delete. There we go. Maybe before we even draw on the sketch, we're going to put one of the corners on the origin, and then we have something to reference off of that makes sense. So we could say that it's the centerpiece or one of these points. I'd rather do something that's mechanical rather than artsy. So we could say that point right there is, and sometimes if you want to get this like dead on something, you have to come over here and mess with it here. So but it gets really finicky. It doesn't like that. So if you really wanted to get it close, then you'd have to start typing in numbers and remembering things. But for this, as critical as this is going to be, it's not horribly critical. But we do have a scaled sketch, which is really important. We're getting close. And about here is where I'd have to start typing in the numbers. So 161. And then I think I can just do it here. So y minus I'm okay with that. So there we go. We have a scaled sketch, we have an origin, and we could start drawing and make this part. So we could start here, just work our way around. Often we find that values are either metric or they're not. So you can sometimes just figure out what the dimension was supposed to be based on the dimension. So, but in this case, they don't look to be very, very on there. This is a vertical, so we can start adding some constraints. There's gonna be another one over here. Maybe we can start applying some symmetry at this point. You know, I think we can do that instead, and we can start just working through this whole thing. But yeah, I mean, there's a center line right here between those two. So we could start, you know, you don't have to do it perfect, but I don't want it freehand drawn. So we work through the part. I'm just going to add a construction line. I think this side is actually bent out a little bit, and you can see that this is at an angle. So I think that this is probably the true line here. So we're going to delete that. Put it right there. All right, that's probably close enough. We'll trim. Now we have our connection. And now if we have something that we don't know how to define, there is a way to define it. So let's say this guy here, we don't have. Now obviously we can make this dimension from here to here, and we could dimension it. And now we're getting our fully defined sketch. And we can copy all these dimensions over to this side, and they should match. We'll keep going. So we'll start rebuilding the part this way. This is collinear. With that, and likewise, we'll start rebuilding the geometry of the part all the way around. I was going to show you another trick on how to fix something just in a place without any reference. So let's say it's a large arc or something that's very awkward to constrain. Once we know these holes here, they will be .125 because I know later that's the drill size that we're going to use. We can use this fix option, and it will prevent it from being able to move around, and that gets really helpful in these big arcs, and as you're trying to get stuff to fit together nice and smooth. Sometimes that's a lot easier than trying to define them with the geometry. And then here I'll show you the mirror trick. So we have that will mirror over here, and all those lines will go over there. So that should be defined though. Oh, because this distance is not defined. And it looks like we are missing a couple. All right. I think there's an extra line there. There we go. So we start working through things and then around this outside, and then we'll make the part and extrude it.